North American building codes make it next to impossible to build with rammed earth, a technique that has been proven to work since the Great Wall of China was first packed into forms 2,700 years ago. By ignoring the thermal mass and structural permanence of the earth beneath our feet, we've traded forever homes for disposable stick-framed boxes. This building technique is among the most sustainable and thermally efficient forms you can build with. Today, I'm going to show you the science of the 100-year wall. We aren't just stacking dirt, we're engineering a geological event. By using an 8% stabilized mix of cement or hydrated lime, we trigger a chemical reaction that turns loose aggregate into a monolithic stone. The result is a wall with the compressive strength of soft concrete, strong enough to carry a roof for a century, but dense enough to regulate your home's temperature without an AC unit. To build a wall that outlasts a mortgage, your mix has to be a perfect 100% balance. We break it down into 3 layers. The skeleton, 70%. This is your structural core. We use 30% coarse aggregate for strength and 40% clean sand to choke out the air pockets. This is what carries the weight of the roof. The binder, 20%. This is the glue. 12% silt and clay holds the shape while we're tamping, and 8% Portland cement or hydrated lime creates the permanent chemical bond that turns dirt into stone. Finally, exactly 10% water is added as the catalyst. Without it, the cement or lime never hydrates, and the wall is just a pile of dust. A rammed earth wall is hygroscopic. It breathes. But if the feet of the wall get wet, the structure fails. We use a 30-inch reinforced strip footing, not just for weight, but for isolation. The perforated PVC drainage system and the 18-inch stem wall act as a barrier, ensuring that ground moisture never touches the earth. We build a foundation for the house to sit on. The formwork must be solid if you wish for your walls to be straight. Tamping can be done by hand or with a hydraulic tamper. Thick plywood and steel braces aren't for looks, they are external skeletons. We use them to hold the earth while it cures. By integrating precast concrete box frames and a continuous reinforced bond beam, we distribute the roof's dead load evenly across the 12-inch thick walls. This creates a thermal mass effect. The house acts as a battery for heat, staying cool in the day and warm at night. You can have the perfect 10% moisture calculation on paper, but the second that sand hits the mixer, the environment takes over. If you're building in high humidity, your 10% water addition might actually push you to 13%, and suddenly your engineered stone turns into a structural soup. The issue arises during the first lift. If the mix is too wet, it sticks to the tamper. If it's too dry, it won't ring when hit. You have to be constantly adjusting. Most builders fail here because they treat the recipe like a cake mix, but in reality, you're managing a living material that reacts to the sun, the wind, and the source of your aggregate. The biggest issue with formwork isn't the weight, it's the hydrostatic pressure of the tamping process. Imagine 30,000 pounds of force being driven into a 6-inch layer of earth. That pressure doesn't just go down, it goes out. If your steel whaler braces aren't spaced perfectly, or if a single coil tie is loose, the forms will bow outward. Once a rammed earth form bows, there is no pushing it back. You're left with a permanent wave in a 100-year wall. This is why we use high-density plywood. It's not about the finish, it's about surviving the violence of the compaction. The most realistic threat to a rammed earth home isn't a storm, it's the ground beneath it. Because the wall is hygroscopic, it acts like a giant sponge. If the foundation isn't isolated, moisture from the soil will wick upward through capillary action. You won't see the failure on day one. It shows up 3 years later as efflorescence, white, salty mineral deposits on your beautiful walls, or worse, structural softening at the base. That's why the 18-inch stem wall isn't a suggestion. It's a mandatory dry zone that keeps the earth lift high enough to stay bone dry for a century. If you're standing in a field with 40 tons of dirt, you don't have a lab to check your moisture. You have the field drop test. Take a handful of your stabilized mix and squeeze it into a ball the size of a grapefruit. Drop it from exactly 5 feet onto a hard surface. The failure. If it shatters into 100 tiny pieces, it's too dry. Your cement won't hydrate. If it stays in one solid muddy lump, it's too wet. Your wall will shrink and crack. The success. It should break into 4 or 5 clean structural chunks. That is the optimum moisture content. If you don't see those chunks, do not start tamping. To stop moisture from wicking up from the ground, you need a capillary break. Even with an 18-inch stem wall, concrete is porous. Before you lay your first lift of earth, apply a high-quality bituminous sealer or a heavy-duty rubberized membrane to the top of that concrete footing. This creates a chemical dead zone that moisture cannot cross. It's a $200 step that protects a $500,000 structure. How do you know when you've hit maximum density? You listen for the ring. When you start tamping a 6-inch lift, the sound is a dull, thudding thwack. As the air pockets vanish and the aggregate locks together, the pitch of the impact will actually rise. When the earth starts to ring or sound metallic under the head of the tamper, you've reached 98% compaction. Stop there. Over-tamping can actually vibrate the layers below and break the bond of the cement that has already started to set. Trust your ears, not just your arms.